but it's going to be a whole lot of fun. I know that. And somebody who just popped into the waiting room is going to give me a whole lot more from a Philadelphia perspective is NBC Sports Dave Zangaro, and looking forward to bringing him on and meeting him for the first time right now inside the vault on this Friday. So good to have you guys here. Over 700 of you concurrently watching. As always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when we're dropping our daily live content. Dave, great to see you. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Can't wait for this one on Sunday, boy. It's going to be a star-studded affair.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. It should be a really fun contest. Some really great players, and I know there are a lot of people who are upset it's not a primetime game. Like me personally, I'm not. Like I'm pretty excited it's not a night game, but yeah, it should be a really fun contest.
I could not agree with you anymore. When it comes to primetime, we've had plenty of those, and there'll be a standalone on Christmas as well, which is luckily, I think it's a 4:00 kick, which is a whole lot better than 8. I feel like it's just shaving days, if not weeks, if not years off my life. But that's the fun part about this. The alternative, obviously, we wouldn't want that either. But when you just logged in, you probably caught the tail end of the conversation that I was having related to Saquon's MVP candidacy versus Lamar's. Of course, that'll be discussed a lot, and the history of running backs struggling in that category. It's one thing to talk about the offensive player of the year, but when it comes to NFL MVP, as you know, that's traditionally gone to quarterbacks. Certainly doesn't take away whatsoever from what Saquon has done in year one with the Eagles. From your perspective, what has he given to this offense?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he'd be good, but I don't know if anyone expected him to be this good. He just brings a new dynamic to this team, and they've had good running backs here before that really benefited from the really good offensive line and having a quarterback who's able to kind of be a +1 in the run game, but he can do so much more on top of that. You saw like last year, DeAndre Swift, the years before that, Miles Sanders, they were able to get what the offense gave them. They were able to pick up yards within the framework of the offense, but Saquon's able, like he's a threat to take the ball to the house every single time he touches it. It's a special quality to have in a back like this. He's so good before contact right now because the Eagles' offensive line has been tremendous, but then he's great after contact because he's really tough to bring down from a physical standpoint, but also really elusive, able to make tacklers miss. So he kind of has it all. He's, just a really well-rounded back. He can catch the ball out of the backfield too. So there's not really a weakness in his game, and they're using him like crazy. I mean, he's getting 25, 30 touches a game, but right now that's kind of what their offense is running, and it runs through him.
I'm fully expecting him to get his, by the way. I mean, I don't know if he's going to go for 200 plus on the top ranked rushing defense, but I fully expect him to have an impact. Where I think the X factor could be is A.J. Brown. I mean, you've probably watched this uncharacteristic Ravens passing defense, and while they certainly have made some adjustments personnel-wise in recent weeks, particularly on the back end, deep safety-wise, Kyle Hamilton and Ardarius Washington are going to be back there. And selfishly, I think a lot of Ravens fans are like, "Dang, we want number 14 up at the line of scrimmage. That's where Kyle is at his best." But they were forced, essentially, they did not have any other decision than to put Kyle on the back and try and calm things down with some of the inconsistent play they've received from Marcus Williams and Eddie Jackson. Eddie's no longer with the team. And so that's what they made. They made that decision a couple weeks ago. We'll see. It's only been a 2-game sample size. But my question for you is, A.J. Brown, the year that he's having, his overall health, and how you feel like he might be able to exploit what's been actually the Baltimore's Achilles heel so far this year.
Yeah, I think that's what makes this game so fascinating is because since the Eagles' early bye week, they've been so focused on kind of being a run-first team and running heavy, and then you face a Ravens team that's really good at stopping the run and then seems pretty susceptible through the air, and you have A.J. Brown who just like quietly puts together big games. Last week, all the talk was about Saquon, and rightfully so. He went for 300 yards from scrimmage in that game, but A.J. Brown had 109, and he just very quietly turns in these types of performances. He's been fantastic this year. He has the ability to kind of bully cornerbacks, and I think that could be this type of game for him if they get him isolated on some of these corners. Now, obviously, when you have A.J. Brown out there and you have a Devontae Smith situation where he might play, he might not. He's been dealing with a hamstring. But if you don't have Devontae Smith, then I think you're able to kind of put more resources into stopping A.J. Brown. That's what I would expect the Ravens to do. But he's tough, man, because eventually he's going to end up in a one-on-one situation, and he's probably going to win, and they're probably going to look for him. He's been just really tremendous this year. I think they're 8-0 when he plays, by the way. He missed 3 games early in the season. They went 1-2 during those 3 games. He's just really consistent, really solid. Jalen Hurts trusts him as much as he trusts any player on this team. I think one of the fascinating things is he's been so good at maximizing his attempt or his targets since the bye week. They've obviously been a really heavy run team, but when he gets his targets, he makes the most of them. He's creating yards after catch pretty much on his own through like sheer willpower and the ability to make guys miss and running them over. He's very quietly just having a really, really good season.
Beat reporters from Baltimore, as we speak here, just tweeting out that missing from practice, Kyle Van Noy dealing with a hamstring/neck, Arthur Maulette, not a surprise, dealing with a calf, and Charlie Kohler, reserve tight end, who just broke his arm on Monday night. That's the health situation for Baltimore, which is interesting because Roquan Smith looks like he's going to play after missing Monday night. Obviously, that's going to be a big part of Baltimore's puzzle when it comes to stopping Saquon and company. You mentioned Devontae. Any other health situations that need to be discussed on the Philadelphia side?
Yeah, the one other big one is Darius Slay. He has a concussion, so it's just really tough for players to clear the protocol in a week these days. And he didn't practice on Wednesday or Thursday, so I'd anticipate he's going to be out. And that means you're going to have Isaiah Rodgers, a veteran who's a good story, by the way. He missed all of last year. He was suspended for violating the gambling policy. So he'll be out there as the other starting corner. But with the really impressive rookie Quinyon Mitchell on one side, I'd expect the Ravens to really target Isaiah Rodgers in this game. That's kind of been what we've seen this year when he's in there opposite Mitchell. It's kind of crazy. Quinyon Mitchell's a rookie, but he really doesn't see many targets come his way. He's been that good. So I'd expect that to be the case in this game. It'd be a lot of going after Isaiah Rodgers.
The young cornerback play in this matchup probably won't be talked about enough just because of all the MVP candidates and Offensive Player of the Year candidates and the firepower that these offenses obviously possess. But you mentioned Quinyon. You didn't mention Cooper. He's obviously a part of the conversation as well out of Iowa, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And then you got Wiggins over on the Baltimore side of things, who's quietly putting together a great year amidst a lot of controversy within that defensive back group collectively. Defensively wise for Philly, what is this team about at this point in the year? And I got to wonder too, when you look back at last year and the collapse that was, did they lose 6 of the last 7 or just 6 in a row?
I think it was 6 of the last 7.
Okay. Regardless, it was a collapse of epic proportions for a team that was expected to make a deep run, obviously. What led to that, and how much of that was defensively?
Oh, yeah, the defense completely collapsed last year. They went into the season with Sean Desai as their defensive coordinator, and then it was with week 13, they decided to hand over the reins to Matt Patricia, which was just a disaster. By the end of the year, it was the most confused I've ever seen a defense look. The guys just didn't know what they were doing. It was, just an abject failure on the part of the coaching staff and really just ill-fated from the moment they made that decision. They weren't good before that, but then after that, it was completely over. I think what I've been most impressed by with this defense is, you have Vic Fangio, veteran defensive coordinator, and it's a young defense. I mean, they have a bunch of guys on rookie contracts that aren't getting paid a whole lot, but man, they're playing well and they're playing well together. Yeah, he has them so prepared. Like you watch them in zone coverage, how smooth they are passing off those zones, and how just ready they are for everything. We saw them against the Sean McVay offense last week, and you would think, man, a Sean McVay offense with all that motion and eye candy is kind of designed to trip up a defense that's this young, but Fangio has them playing at such a high level and at such an advanced level that, man, I thought they played really well against them, all things considered. They've just been really good. And you mentioned Cooper DeJean. One of the big changes after the bye week was putting him in the lineup at the nickel corner spot, and he's just been really good. I think overall Quinyon Mitchell is probably having the better season, but I might say that Cooper DeJean's been more important to their success because things have really changed after he got in there.
Dave, Vic Fangio, as you know, has a lot of history with the Ravens. I think a lot within the fan base think about the time that he was the head coach of the Denver Broncos and took issue with the Ravens going after, essentially in garbage time, a then record when it comes to rushing tax over 100 plus yards per game. And there was a lot of media polarization and he and Harbaugh going back and forth with one another. So, and then clearly he's just got also employment history and whatnot with the organization itself. A lot of people will point to a graphic that I had up on the screen prior to you coming on, which reflected Lamar's dominance, just a 2-game sample size, but just utter dominance against Vic Fangio coordinated defenses. 2 games, close to 40 points per game, a 69 completion percentage, over 350 yards per game. He hasn't thrown or turned the ball over, whether it's an interception or a fumble or anything along those lines, and a passer rating of 139.8. That might be the case, but as you see on the screen here, this is a different kind of defense than ones in the past from a Vic Fangio standpoint. So I got to wonder, you kind of want to throw those statistics out just because this is a group that statistically entering week 13 is not only your top overall ranked defense, but just a lot of balance. 7th against the run, 3rd against the pass, 6th in terms of points per game allowed, 3rd on 3rd down, and 5th in the red zone, which matches up perfectly with the Ravens, who are essentially top 5 in every single one of those categories on the flip side offensively. So this should be a treat.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch it. And it feels like every few weeks we say this is the Eagles' biggest challenge. We did it when they faced the Commanders and Jaden Daniels, and then we did it last week when they faced the Rams, and now we're doing it again. This will be their biggest challenge of the year, certainly, against this Ravens team. After this, not that things get a ton easier. They do have some tough games, but this is clearly the biggest challenge they'll face all year on the road against a top offense. So, yeah, I'm excited to see how they stack up. I think this is a defense right now that just has a ton of confidence. They've been playing so well and playing so well together. So, yeah, I think it's going to be really fun to watch how this plays out. They've been, really good against the pass, but also like they've improved so much against the run. Tackling was an issue for them early in the year. And tackling can be kind of a finicky thing because you think like, are they not wrapping up? Like, what's the issue? They've changed a few things. They've learned the defense better, and those tackling issues have really kind of solved themselves. Obviously, a big test with Derrick Henry, trying to bring him down in this game. But, yeah, I've been really impressed by the Eagles' defense pretty much since the bye week.
But perhaps they have the dogs to maybe not bring him down, but contain him and at least make Monken and Lamar beat you through the air, which they're certainly capable of doing. But talk to me about this defensive front, because you just got big bodies that are in there, right? Young guys like Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, and then the Nakobe Deans of the world who've been around for a little longer. There's just there's some playmaking ability all throughout this defense up front.
Yeah, there is. And, right now their weakest position up front is definitely edge rusher. They just lost Brandon Graham for the season, and that's going to hurt them. But they still have some good players, Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith up front. They brought in Charles Harris from Carolina just this week. So some new faces there. Inside, Jalen Carter has been an absolute beast in recent weeks. He gets doubled a ton. He gets held a ton. It doesn't get called. He's really kind of been the engine for them up front. Last week, another interior lineman, Milton Williams, had 2 sacks. And if you look back at those, both of them came when Jalen Carter was getting doubled. So the numbers aren't there for Carter right now, but I think he's playing as well as just about any defensive tackle in the league. And their linebacking play has been really good this year, which is a bit of a surprise. In the offseason, they brought in Devin White as kind of their marquee guy. They thought he was going to be their middle linebacker, and he just got beat out in training camp by Nakobe Dean. And next to Nakobe Dean is Zach Bond, who really didn't have a chance to play inside backer much in his career, and he's been fantastic. I mean, he might be the MVP of their defense. So I think that's kind of the surprising part about this defense. They have a couple players in the middle there that big question marks coming into the season. If you were to list their positions by strength, I think linebacker probably would have been at the bottom when we started the season, and now they're probably up at the top. And it tells you how well those two guys have played together this year.
Dave, there was a lot of noise surrounding not just Sirianni throughout the offseason, but the partnership that is, quarterback and head coach, Jalen and Sirianni, whether or not that was, a solid professionally working partnership. And so far, it seems as if, not just so far, I mean, it's a 12-game sample size, right? Going into week 13, they have had their bye. So what? They're 9-2, right? So it's 11-game sample size. But with all that said, how much merit, I guess, from your vantage point, did that have leading into the year?
Yeah, no, it was an issue. It was an absolute issue. It was something they had to figure out, and it didn't just stop at the beginning of the season. Like it kind of lingered into the beginning of this season. That bye week felt really important. They had some time together, and I think they kind of came to a better understanding. And really, like the Eagles organization kind of invited a lot of this by handling the offseason the way they did. It was a thorough process to decide to bring Nick Sirianni back, but when you wait as long as they did, and when they were clearly thinking about potentially moving on, it kind of started this season in that mode where any little thing went wrong, you're thinking, okay, how long does the head coach have? And it took them starting to roll off some wins to really get out of that mode. When they were sitting at 2-2 at their week 5 bye, I think there were a lot of questions about the future of the head coach. And that's a weird place to be in that early in the season. And the only reason you're there is because you kind of invited that in the offseason. But really, since the bye week, it's all quieted down. Winning does that. You rattle off 7 wins in a row, and all of a sudden things are going pretty well.
Week 5 bye week 14 from a Baltimore perspective. That is insane.
It's insane, and it's funny when that shows up on the schedule. You're thinking, man, that's too early. But for them, it really kind of came at a perfect moment. They had for their first 4 games. I mean, they started the season in Sao Paulo in Brazil, which is like it takes a lot out of you. And then they're on the road in New Orleans. They're on the road in Tampa. So they had like kind of 3 big road trips to start the season in 4 weeks. They're 2-2. They're kind of banged up. There's some discord. So the early bye week, in hindsight, really did come at a good time for them.
What a testament to what they do have internally, even if there was friction between the quarterback and the head coach, to rip off 7 straight and now be in a great position, and probably looked at as the favorites alongside Detroit to represent the conference in New Orleans is wow, what a turnaround. What is one, are you in the prediction game? If you are, we'd love to hear it. And 2, what's the one matchup to watch, whether it's from an entertainment standpoint or the influence that'll have on the ultimate outcome Sunday?
Yeah, I'll start with the matchup, and it's kind of a broad one, but I am fascinated by this Ravens defense because they're so good at stopping the run, and then they seem so susceptible to getting beat through the air. And this is an Eagles offense that wants to run the football. They've shown that for the last 7 weeks. So like something's got to give here, and I don't know what it is. I know the Eagles feel confident that they can run the ball against pretty much anyone, but you start to wonder, like, what if it doesn't go well early in this game? If they get behind, then all of a sudden they can't do that. They might have to throw the ball. So to me, that's the matchup to watch. I am picking the Ravens in this game. I think it's going to be a tight one. It's weird because I look at the Eagles' schedule and I think they're not going to win 13 straight games to end this season. And I'm trying to find the loss, and I don't see it after this game. So that's kind of my rationale on this one. I think this is the game that sets itself up most to be a loss for them. It doesn't mean the Eagles can't win this game. I think these are 2 pretty evenly matched teams. And honestly, I think the Eagles might have a little bit more talent overall, but they're on the road. They're facing a team in Baltimore that kind of needs a win more than them in a way. I think Baltimore could get behind here in the conference and the division if they lose this one. So I think you have a more of a desperate team in Baltimore. So I am picking the Ravens, but I think it's going to be a heck of a game.
That makes a lot of sense, the way that you're kind of shaping this up here. So 9-3, should they lose on Sunday in Baltimore, you could easily rip off the next 5: Carolina, Pittsburgh, Washington, Dallas, and New York, meaning the Giants. So, and that would set up for what, a 14-3 campaign? Not bad. And to your point, you don't come in having ripped off, having not lost in multiple months, which maybe helps you out just in terms of momentum and whatnot. So, Dave, I appreciate you for popping by. Let everybody know from, if they want the Philadelphia perspective over the next few days leading into Sunday, where they can find your work. And I'll also have your X handle up on the screen while you do so.
Sure. It's NBC sportsphiladelphia.com. I host the Eagle Eye podcast if you want to check that out. And then, yeah, there I am on X and all the other social media platforms. That about a million of them right now, and I'm on all of them. So,
You making the trip down?
yeah, I'll be headed down Sunday.
Good, good. Enjoy yourself, Dave. And again, happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. And I appreciate you carving out some time for us today.
Absolutely. Take care.
Dave Zangaro, NBC Sports Philadelphia, kind enough to spend a few minutes with me today. You can find him on X, like I just mentioned there, at DZangaro NBCS. Now it's time for my prediction. And I'll tell you what, this is going to be a freaking game. I hope it is from an entertainment perspective. Let me catch you up to speed on the overall health of the Ravens, which I mentioned in the middle part of that interview. But if you're just tuning in right now, you'll be fully refreshed. Okay. Friday's practice consisted of the following players missing in action. Charlie Kohler, not a surprise, broken arm. Kyle Van Noy, somewhat of a surprise in the sense that it's a Friday, has not practiced this week. Will he be ready? He's dealing with a neck and hamstring. And Arthur Maulette, who continues to deal with his calf strain. Kyle not practicing all week in one breath makes you think, oh, he's a veteran. They have a certain level of trust. And it is a short week, but it's also not practicing all week long. And he has been on the injury report, whether it be with rest or little nicks in recent weeks. And of course, he is just one sack away from his career high of 9. He's got 8 so far this year through 12 weeks. His career high, by the way, was 9 last year with the Ravens. The big overarching takeaway here is that Roquan Smith, who's been limited all week and of course missed Monday's game against the Chargers, sure looks like he's going to be ready to go. Meaning he was practicing today. He's been limited all week. He was what is believed to be, based on the optics, close to playing on Monday night. He had a pregame workout that lasted over 20 minutes. And after probably taking a close look at him and evaluating, maybe the staff, the medical staff, coaches got together and were like, listen, this is a hamstring. Why push it? We feel confident going in against this Chargers team that we're going to be able to get it done. And they did. And if that's the case, I like that gamble. Particularly with the bye week coming up on deck, week 14. So with that in mind, Roquan sure looks like he's going to be able to give it a go. Here's what I'm looking at this game specifically. First of all, the Ravens are, depending on the sports book, 2.5, 3-point home favorites against the Eagles, despite their 9-2 record and despite having ripped off 7 straight wins coming into this game, as already documented. The over-under set at 50.5. For the Ravens, they've had some slow starts recently. It's uncharacteristic, slow starts, matter of fact, when it comes to this Todd Monken offense. One of my keys is getting out of the gate, putting up a nice scripted opening drive, setting the tone, and moving forward from there. After that, and man, it's hard to truly put an importance level on this. Enough of an importance level, and that is having an answer for A.J. Brown. He is their number 1 wide receiver, and as PFF put together here, he ranks 3rd in the NFL in receiving yards per game. He'll face a Ravens defense that, as we have all watched, has struggled to contain opposing wide receivers. Collectively, as a group, they rank 30th in receiving yards allowed per game to the position. The Ravens have the top-ranked rushing defense, as we know. Travis Jones will be out there. Michael Pierce could potentially be making his return after being designated to return earlier in the week. We know he's been on IR for the last month. He has a 21-day activation window. But regardless, this is a group, even without Big MP down there in the middle, is certainly capable of containing you from a rushing perspective. Where they have not proven consistently, and I get it, the last couple weeks they've played better, given the sense of calm and the stability on the back end with Kyle Hamilton and Ardarius Washington becoming running mates. This to me feels like it's the biggest X factor. If you could do what you do best and has been your calling card through 12 games, which for the Ravens has been stopping the run. If that continues and you find a way to make sure A.J. Brown is a non-factor, this is a win. Controlling the time of possession battle with Derrick Henry, cleaning up the penalties, particularly along the offensive line, the pre-snap penalties, the alignment issues with seemingly every single week there being at least one illegal formation. You clean those things up and you don't shoot yourselves in the foot when it comes to 1st and 20, 2nd and 15, all these long yardage situations where you're battling uphill and trying to overcome that time and time again. I like the Ravens. I like the Ravens 29-28. In a sense, I agree with Dave. They will be the more desperate team coming up on Sunday when it comes to what they have still in front of them. Philadelphia has a nice cushion atop the NFC East right now at 9-2. The Ravens understand if you win out, you're probably going to end up taking the division. Now, the postseason no longer runs through Baltimore. I don't believe that's going to be the case this year, unless Kansas City and Buffalo just flop. But still, you find a way to get in. You win your division, and you have a playoff game. You have a home playoff game. And I like the Ravens' chances of getting hot and getting on a run, even if they have to play outside of the bank en route to New Orleans. 29-28, Ravens over the Eagles, 425 coming up on Sunday. Hit me with your predictions, as always, in the live chat. I'd love to see what you have in store for me.